All right, hey guys, how's it going? Blizzard finally released a Warcraft 3 patch after I don't know how many years, and it is just awesome. The fact that they're still messing with this game and trying to make it better, and they realize there's a scene that actively plays and loves this game is so cool. Um, so what jumps out at me is there are good changes. These are just all good changes. What they did was they took underused abilities or underused heroes and brought them up, made these underused things a little better, and all around the board these are just great changes, and I'm kind of surprised that they're this in touch with the community. And not the community in general. A lot of the community has some kind of wacky ideas, but with the pro scene, with what's actually good at a high level, and all around good changes. I don't know how much of an effect it's going to make in the solo scene. Hopefully, this is just the start. Hopefully, we'll get a few more changes, maybe to some units, maybe to some other heroes. I don't know how much of an effect all these changes will make. Some of them, there's definitely going to be a benefit. A change in solo. Um, a lot of them, not so much. But in free for all, and I love free for all. I think it's a totally underrated game mode. Um, and there's a lot of players who keep playing it strong after all these years. In free for all, there is going to be some big changes. These pretty much everything has a pretty big effect. Not everything, but a lot of this stuff is going to change the game mode, and I'd say for the better. I think it's really positive for most races. Okay, but before I get into that, one thing about free for all that you need to understand, especially organized free for all, like the leagues and tournaments and stuff like that. One thing you need to understand when you're in a game with 4 to 8 players that really want to win is there exists this perpetual balance of power. Um, and what that means is, when you're strong, you get teamed down. When you're weak, you're kind of in a good position because no one wants to kill you, they want to use you. So what happens is if you buff, for example, Undead is going to get some good buffs. If you buff Undead's late game, and this is for people who don't really understand late game free for all, Undead's bad past like 35, 40 minutes. In like a game with fully teched out units and high level heroes and stuff, Undead is just a tier below the other 3 races. Froststorms, Destroyers, way too easily countered, and Gargoyles are your best unit, but they're a light air with 400 hit points. Undead is just kind of at this lower power level. So, for example, by being weaker, Undead's in a good spot because no one wants to team an Undead, because if it comes down to a 1 versus 1, you're going to be able to beat the Undead. So, with this perpetual balance of power, that's going to remain. So if you make Undead stronger, well, now they lose some bargaining chips in late game teaming, so they're weaker. Because they're stronger, they're weaker. And if you get weaker, you get stronger. So, like in free for all leagues, really there's not going to be that much of a difference. And like this race is now stronger. I think it's good that Undead and Elf will get stronger, but it's not going to make too much of a difference. I would say there is one thing that's going to, even in leagues, is going to be a big difference, and I'll get to that when I get there. However, in normal free for all, the free for all that I love, that's not inside a league or a tournament, that's just random games with 8 to 10 people you don't know, 6 to 10 people you don't know. All these changes are going to have a good impact. It's that perpetual balance of power doesn't really exist there in the way that I'm explaining, and it's like a real free for all mess, a real brawl, slobber knocker. And so this is more aimed at that, but obviously both types of game modes, gameplays, and free for all are going to be greatly affected. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go through the changes, tell you what I think of it, tell you how it's gonna likely impact free for all. If we start at the beginning, because of the 24 player support, it's going to be insane to have a free for all that big. But colors are kind of a big thing in free for all. and we'll see what happens with that. I mean, it's already kind of a mess. Hopefully, hopefully it's not too bad. A lot of those colors like dark brown, dark green, purple, light blue on the snow maps, gray. It's really hard to see them on the mini map. And I mean, more colors, that might be good. That might be a good thing, and that might be a bad thing. Okay, so let's go to human. So I mean, the first thing that we see is every hero with a move speed of 270 moves up to 290. Great change. Great change. A lot of these heroes in free for all do not need this change at all, but from a gameplay perspective, it is good because I don't know, walking around 270 is really clunky and slow. I think just bringing up the average is nice, and it allows for not using a fast hero first. It's kind of like a requirement in solo and free for all to pick a fast movement hero first. Not a requirement, but it's generally advised. So I mean, I think it's a good change around the board. I don't know if these heroes need it, but whatever. So Stormbolt gets nerfed very slightly, just the damage of the nuke on level 2 and 3. You're not going to feel this. I don't think you're going to feel the change. So let's move on to Thunderclap. Increased damage. So the damage goes up a lot. I don't think you guys realize how significant this is. So it goes, so level 3, let's talk about this for a second. Increased damage from 140 to 175. Because Frost Nova is probably the best AoE nuke in the game, maybe tied with Breath of Fire. Frost Nova does 150 damage, and it does it in a smaller AoE than this. So now this thing is going to hit harder than Frost Nova. Thunderclap's going to hit harder than Frost Nova, and it's going to be huge. 400 AoE. That's going to be massive. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, a good change for solo. Does the Mountain King really need a 175 massive AoE damage nuke? No, he definitely doesn't. But I mean, it's going to be so cool, and I don't think this is going to have that much of an effect against Night Elf or Undead or even against Human. But against Orc, when you have a level 7 Mountain King, you're going to be able to just get in there and thunderclap all the casters, Kodo, and the heroes. It's going to hit everything, and it's going to put that massive slow on them. You can't dispel that slow or anything. And that in conjunction with slow and blizzard, for the players who understand high level micro and free for all, this is going to be huge against Orc. This is really going to help the Orc matchup. Generally, the Panda is considered a better late game hero against Orc in these 100 food battles. I think this puts the Mountain King pretty close. Yeah, it doesn't hit air, but I mean, everyone has differing opinions on who are the best heroes in free for all. I think the Mountain King is a top 3, top 2 hero. I think this makes the Mountain King the best hero in the game. With the 290 move speed and with 175 AoE damage Thunderclap with 400 AoE, I think the Mountain King is now the best hero in free for all. That's just so big. Combined with Blizzard, that's going to help their matchup against Orc so much. And Orc isn't in really a good place right now. So, and with the movement speed bonus on every hero in the game, I mean, that's not good for Orc, because Orc already has really fast heroes with Endurance Aura and Bloodlust Aura and Bloodlust. So making everything else faster is kind of bad for Orc. Yeah, I think Mountain King might be the best hero in the game now. He just supplies so much. I mean, you would use the Panda before, but the problem with the Panda is, I mean, you use Archmage, usually you use Archmage, Mountain King Paladin, or Archmage Panda Paladin. And the problem with the Panda is he does not offer hero focus. And so if you start destroying everybody, what you do with the Panda, you just start kicking the crap out of everybody. The problem is you start getting teamed, and you can't fight off the teamers because you don't have any way to kill their heroes because you don't have a disable. So you want the Mountain King, but with the Mountain King, you don't have the power to dominate like the early late game like you do with the Panda. So this kind of like fixes that, I think. Yeah, it doesn't really have that much of an effect against Elf. But I mean, hey, like this is a big deal. I think this makes the Mountain King the best hero in the game. All right. So then we have the Paladin. Movement speed increase. This is really good for human. Human does not need stronger heroes, but this is fine. I think it's a good from a gameplay perspective. His attack speed is going to be a bit faster. I like this. I think it's a cool change. I think you throw an orb of fire on him, and he's just a solid hero. Now, because I mean, a lot of human damage is just from heroes' auto attack damage because their units don't do a lot of damage. You get inner fire on everything, you get devotion aura on everything, and you just last a long time. So all those auto attacks from your heroes and blizzard and stuff really adds up. And you know, this will help. This will make his hammer hit a little bit harder. I think it's a cool change. Divine Shield duration decreased. Divine Shield is completely asinine. It's the stupidest ability in the game. There's no interaction. You're invulnerable for 45 seconds. And then you can use an Invul Potion, and by the time the Invul Potion's off, you can use Divine Shield again. It's just stupid. So this was nerfed a little bit. It's not enough. It's still stupid. I don't think you're gonna really notice the difference. And before it was absurd length, and now it's just a stupidly long length. It's still absurd. Anyways, overall, human got worse in free for all. Human definitely got worse because of what Elf and what Undead got. And so, I mean, yeah, we buffed their two of the strongest heroes in the game, but human got weaker. Definitely got weaker. But their matchup against Orc got better, and their matchup against Orc was their hardest matchup, I think, and now it's better. Not good news for Orc, but good news for, yeah, I'd still say this is bad news for human. And while there are no tank changes to siege engines, they are definitely nerfed. Siege engines are considerably worse now, and you'll see why as we go down. Changes to Orc. Guys, these are all irrelevant. No changes. Critical strike, you are not going to feel any damage difference. You don't stack claws. You rarely stack claws in free for all. You stack boots of elven skin. You stack circlets. Sometimes you get like a claw plus 12 or something and you keep it, but generally it's better to have health and damage items. And so agility and attack speed items, you're not gonna receive this nerf and damage. So the only thing that I think you're gonna notice is your purge orb. Your orb of lightning is gonna get hit by, and that does 5 damage or 6 damage. So in a crit, your crit is gonna be at level 5. You'll have a level 3 critical strike. Your crit is going to be 15 damage, no, 10 damage smaller. You are going to notice nothing with the Blade Master nerf. Trust me, there's going to be no difference. Mirror Image was complete garbage before. It is still complete garbage. No changes there. Farseer, the XP doesn't really affect free for all, and the HP. No. It doesn't help the Farseer. Farsight, I think this is a nerf for free for all. This is definitely a nerf for free for all because 30-second cooldown. Before you could, the off chance you had a Farseer, you could retrain to level 3 Farsight and basically have the whole map revealed all the time because it was so powerful. Now you have a 30-second cooldown. So Farsight for free for all was definitely nerfed. Level 1 and 2 might be a little bit better, but level 3 was nerfed. Chain Lightning, that's cool. I like the change. I mean, the Farseer is still bad. The Blade Master is so much better. Torn Chieftain, yeah, like we really needed a Stomp buff. I mean, it doesn't matter. Stomp is still massively overpowered, does a little bit more damage now. And the Torn Chieftain's a little faster. He was already super fast with Endurance or Boots of Speed. Usually got a Boots of Speed for your Torn Chieftain. And Bloodlust. He was already so fast, he's still going to be super fast. Reincarnation, I don't think this does anything. This, I don't really understand why. I guess it kind of makes sense. You're kind of out for a while, but that's not a buff or nerf or anything. So Orc, no changes, no buffs, really. Chain Lightning hits a little bit harder. Maybe like quite a bit harder when you're doing massive AoE, but it does not replace the Blade Master's high armor and high damage. So no changes for Orc. So because of that, they get worse because everybody else gets better. Undead. Here's my vote for one of the top 3 biggest changes in free-for-all, and it is this right here. Carrion Swarm now can target mechanical units. And what that means is it can target tanks, and it can target gyrocopters. This is a big deal. Undead with high-level heroes is already good against human. Even though Undead's the weakest race and human's kind of considered the strongest race, Undead's already good against human because of their movement speed and because of their nuke. They could just kind of nuke down Griffins and then just walk away. And the only counter that human kind of had to that was mass teleporting into the undead base, which you don't really want to fight in an undead base. So that doesn't always work out well. And Hawks could kind of grab the Gargs and stuff. And while that still remains, I mean, launching an Infernal onto siege tanks and then carrying swarming them is just such a big deal. So this is a huge change for free-for-all. Undead just got way better late game. This is a huge change. And he's moving faster. This is a big deal. Not a huge deal, but it's nice. You don't need to, I don't think you need to buy boots for Dreadlord now, especially with Unholy Aura. This 290, after having Unholy Aura level 3, it'll give you about 30 or 40 extra movement. It's basically a Boots of Speed. Even though a Boots of Speed gives you 60, this only gives you 20. With Unholy Aura, you basically start with a Boots of Speed. Same with the Lich 2. So that frees up an item slot. Usually you shouldn't really buy Boots of Speed anyway, I don't think. At least that's my opinion on those heroes. Maybe the Dreadlord. But now you don't have to. You could buy another Circlet or another Periapt or something, or another Heal Scroll. And you natively get a Boots of Speed. So that's good. That's good for Undead. Sleep got a slight buff. Duration irrelevant, but the cooldown reduction, I think you only need to get it level 2 now. And then you could start working on Vampiric Aura. So, I mean, just a buff, not that big a deal, but definitely good. Definitely solid. Vampiric Aura, irrelevant, just completely irrelevant. Cryptlord, guys, Cryptlord is, my opinion, the worst hero in the game, even worse than the Firelord. I could go into why, but Cryptlord, terrible hero. Still, terrible hero. I mean, if you could use him in another race, if you could use him in Night Elf, or even Orc or something, like, he's a great hero, but Undead cannot fight stationary battles. If an Undead is fighting in a stationary battle, they are losing. It's their unit, food to HP to armor to damage ratio is considerably worse than every other race. They cannot win a stationary battle against an equally skilled player, which is what the Cryptlord excels at. So it just doesn't matter. Cryptlord will always be bad. Blizzard needs to remove the invulnerability on Impale. This is so clunky, it's so wonky. You impale units and they turn invulnerable. You actually make enemy units invulnerable by impaling them. So you could have 500 damage worth of range damage coming toward a unit, and you impale it, and you just lost all that damage because the unit is invulnerable. So impales, even though that's a significant damage increase, 55 more damage on level 3, Um, no, Crypt Lord's still bad. I think still the worst hero in the game. Lich. I already talked about the move speed. So Undead definitely got buffed because of this right here. That gives them a better, a lot more room to work with against human. I think you don't get a Dark Ranger third now unless there are no humans in the game and you're just against Orc. I think you just use Dreadlord all the time now as third hero. Big deal. Okay. Let's move on to Night Elf. Priestess of the Moon, attack speed change. I've been advocating this for a long time, so I wonder if, you know, that got through to devs or something. Doesn't matter. It's not enough. It's nothing. We're talking like Shadow Hunter damage. You know, we're talking about like the lowest damaging glaive throwing orc hero that just like throws the glaives all slowly. Like that's how bad the Priestess of the Moon is in terms of auto attack damage. So bad. And because the attack cooldown is so low, the potential is terrible too. And this is just too small a change. We need like to 2.1 or 2.0 or something. Or we need another change, maybe like +2 strength. But this is not enough in solo, in free-for-all, whatever. The Priestess of the Moon's okay in free-for-all because of Scout Owl, because the 30% bonus damage, and because Starfall is just a cool ability. It's just good. But this change is irrelevant. Is garbage auto attack damage. She still does garbage auto attack damage. You still want to use, okay, so yeah, you still want to use an Orb of Venom. In case you're curious, Orb of Venom is going to give you more damage than Searing Arrow. Searing Arrow level 3 will give you more damage now than an Orb of Venom. Don't get Searing Arrow level 3. Keep using Orb of Venom. No effect. Alright, now here is the second biggest change. Probably as big or bigger than the Dreadlord. The Keeper of the Grove. Now, Keeper of the Grove is already I mean, elves kind of are forced to use a Keeper of the Grove because Entangling Roots is just necessary. You just need a disable. It's kind of probably the worst disable in the game. The worst, like, single target disable in the game, but you need it. So, you need the Keeper of the Grove. You have to get the Keeper of the Grove anyway. So, any buff to the Keeper of the Grove is a massive help for Night Elf. And so, let's look at the buffs. Int gain, you start with 1 extra int. Great. That's more entangles. The keeper never runs out of mana anyway in free for all. But I'm gonna tell you why this is a big deal after I explain the other changes. Tranquility. Basically, Tranquility is now on steroids, and I really like what they did with this 3-second invulnerability to the start of the cast. Is it really needed? No, you're going to get 3 seconds anyway, but I think it's a good start. I think they want to test it to see if they could apply it to other channeling spells. And, like, yes, this is a good thing. We need this on channeling ultimates, even other channeling spells. So, cool. It's not going to make any difference. But look at this. So basically, what Tranquility could do in 30 seconds, it now does in 15 seconds. And the cooldown's short. This cooldown's only a minute long. So you cast this and your army's healed. And the battle power of this just got way better. I mean, it was already really good. Tranquility was already one of the best abilities for Night Elf, because Night Elf doesn't really have any heal outside of Moonwells. So this is huge. Tranquility is just on steroids now. This is just an incredibly powerful ultimate. This I think makes you want to choose Keeper of the Grove first. Go Keeper first and rush your level 6. And you can go Keeper first now because you could before. People didn't. I would do it sometimes and it would work perfectly fine. Now, Keeper is a very good first hero. And partly, this is because Entangling Roots just received the same treatment that Tranquility did. This is Entangling Roots on steroids. One is way better against heroes. It lasts longer. 5 seconds at level 2. And 7 seconds at level 3. That is a really long time. And against a race like Orc, that can't really disable that without disenchanting all their Spirit Link. You don't want to disenchant Spirit Link against Night Elf because Night Elf has Chimps, and you need Spirit Link to be able to withstand Chimps and yeah, and like Haze, Fire, all that stuff. You need Spirit Link. So you're gonna root heroes, and they're gonna stay rooted for 7 seconds. And guys, level 3 and level 2 Entangle, people don't really know this, but I mean, I've made some threads on Reddit about it, just talking about abilities and stuff. And level 2 and level 3 Entangle do an absurd amount of damage. They do ridiculous damage. And I think people are going to notice this more. So now, Entangle doesn't last as long on units, but the damage is increased to compensate. It still does the same damage. So the damage is the same, but it's done in a shorter amount of time. So you're going to cast this, like it's going to one-shot a Fiend. It's going to almost kill a Knight. Entangle will almost kill a Knight. Now people don't really make Knights in free-for-all, but anything you cast this on, you just cast it on a caster, caster's dead. You cast it on a Kodo, Kodo's dead. You cast it on a Tauren, Tauren is almost dead. So entangling roots, really good. And why that's a big deal? Yeah, that doing that damage isn't a big deal late game, but it's a really big deal early game. And that means that you can get the Keeper first. So I think Keeper is a viable first hero. I think the Keeper already was a viable first hero. I think this makes it much more so a viable first hero now. Force of Nature, Treants are improved. I think they need a bigger change than that. That's not enough. It's probably not enough to do anything in solo either. You know, it might be against Orc. You might be able to use the Keeper instead of like the Beastmaster. But not enough for free-for-all. I mean, you can use Force of Nature on Marketplace because you can break into the gold mines with Force of Nature, but not a big change. Warden is never used in free-for-all. I think the Warden is actually an okay hero, but Warden's just not used. So this level 3 nerf, yeah, it hurts her. I don't think it hurts her immensely, but it's definitely pretty negative. I wish it was like a 3-second cooldown instead of 4-second cooldown, but for those who do use the Warden, or if you get a Warden in random heroes, she will lose some of her late game gimmick. So how is Night Elf? I can't really talk about Night Elf completely yet because if you've ever played free-for-all, Night Elf uses neutral heroes. Night Elf's heroes are not very good. Keeper of the Grove is a necessity. You don't use the Warden. Priestess of the Moon is okay. So we use a lot of, guess I'm a Night Elf player, use a lot of neutral heroes. So the first thing we see, once again, this base movement speed applied to all the average move speed heroes. Naga gets it. You know, this is a really big deal. Naga is already one of the most powerful heroes in the game in solo. In free-for-all, not so much, but she's been used to effectiveness. I think this allows her to be used a little more. I don't think it's enough. Definitely not enough. There needs to be something to fix Mana Shield, and Tornado is complete garbage. Doesn't work right. It's just a bad ability. Be cool if we got like Crushing Wave or something to replace it, but you know, not enough for the Naga. Kind of too bad. Panda, guys, Panda's the best, the best neutral hero in free-for-all, and we just got a movement speed boost on him. He doesn't need it, but he's got it. This is good for both human and good for Night Elf. Night Elf's main hero, Night Elf's Blade Master, Night Elf's Archmage, Night Elf's Death Knight. This is our main hero, the Panda, and he just got a buff. So that's good. It's only good news for Night Elf from here on out. Alright, Goblin Tinker. Okay. I think this is the biggest change in free-for-all. This is nuts. This guy's going to be so good. He's already good. I think he's already underrated. People don't use cluster rockets. Cluster rockets are already good. I've seen bad players or players with low micro make use of cluster rockets. I haven't seen very many good players make use of cluster rockets. I like using them against tanks, and it's really oppressive. It makes tanks completely useless because you cluster rockets them, they all get stunned, they take 100 damage, then you breath of fire them. And so very good against tanks. Anyways, let me just explain why this is so huge. First, Tinker gets a 30% bonus move speed. So, 290. So okay, first, after the movement speed bonuses of his passive, at level 5, you always go engineering at level 5. So, when you get the Tinker to level 5, he has 270 move speed, plus 30% move speed, giving him like 351, I think it is, move speed. Increasing his base will make him go to, I think, like 380 about. So he gets 30 extra move speed. So it's not like 270 to 290. It's 270 to like 320. Plus, if you have boots, he's going to be so fast. He was already impossible to kill. No one could kill a Tinker in free-for-all. He could just go and cause whatever havoc he wanted. Boots of speed, ring of protection, and staff of teleport. Now he's faster. He does not need to be faster, but now he's faster. So big change. Definitely makes the Tinker much better and harder to kill. And then cluster rockets. Here we go. Damage buff. Damage wasn't terrible. It was 100 damage in a massive AoE. The AoE was huge, and it did 100 damage. So the damage got buffed. But here we go. Allow targeting air units. Guys, that is so huge. Can you imagine hitting like an entire orc army? You could like stun bats and wyverns, and you could stun all the casters and Kodo and the Blade Master and everything. I think you retrain every time now. When you get to level 6 or 7, you retrain to cluster rockets. And this is such a big deal. It's a big deal against human, because now you can just, Tinker's just a better hero. You could just go Tinker. And Tinker's already really good against human. So you're better against human. Also, because it does more damage, you're going to blow up towers and farms and blocks way quicker. It's going to stun Dragonhawks. So if you go the Tinker, one counter to Night Elf Air is to make tanks and hawks. You can't make hawks anymore because you have a low cooldown stun. So this is huge. Also, it allows Elf just to have a disable. Probably the best disable in the game in terms of canceling ultimates. You don't need the Keeper of the Grove, but like I said, you're going to want the Keeper of the Grove anyway. Because the Keeper of the Grove is so powerful now. But you don't even need it because Cluster Rockets is so good. I think this makes Goblin Tinker a top tier hero. Definitely a top tier hero now. It's not a niche pick. It's not like, you know, that mushroom tier. I don't know if you've seen that video where you don't really know if it's a good hero or a bad hero. It's just a hero that's freaking annoying that can win games. But let me tell you, Tinker is a good hero. Tinker brings his own win condition by himself to a free-for-all game because he could go kill a base. So I think this might replace Demon Hunter as Elf's main hero. Just go the Tinker. The Tinker is so good now. I think Tinker top tier hero. Can you imagine fighting Hippogriff battles against other Hippogriffs, or Hippogriffs against Gargs, and having a stun? And they can't sleep. Remember, they can't sleep your Tinker. So air battles are so much better now. You can stun Griffins and tanks at the same time. So your your Hippogriffs can go kill the Gryphons while not being hit by the tanks, which are now inherently weaker because the tanks are dying quicker to cluster rockets. So this is just huge against all races. I think this might even put Elf. This could put Elf on par late game with Orc and Human. So I think Night Elf just became a lot more impressive. And here is another Night Elf change. So Goblin Alchemist, base speed, awesome. Awesome increase for him, awesome change. Heal Spray. Heal Spray is so clunky. I don't like Heal Spray. I won't use it. It has no synergy with Chemical Rage. but you know, it's a good change. It heals a lot, but you know, I don't like it. I'm not gonna mess around with it that much. It's too clunky. It's too weird. But yeah, maybe human could make use of it or something, or orc. Um, or I mean, I guess elf could, but his other abilities are so good for elf. Yeah, acid bomb. This is oppressive. Acid bomb was kind of a low-key sleeper oppressive ability. -5 armor and massive AoE damage. Now it's more damage. I think if you did not think Tinker and Alchemist were on par with the Demon Hunter as a first hero for Elf, now they are. They are definitely top tier material for Elf to pick as first heroes. You can go Alchemist, Alchemist Keeper of the Grove. Okay, imagine you're playing Undead. Imagine, so you're all happy, you're Undead, yeah, you just got these buffs in free-for-all. Now I'm a better race. Now you're playing against a Night Elf who has a heavily buffed Keeper of the Grove and a buffed Alchemist. I entangle your DK. You remember, you can't fight me in a battle. If I'm playing Elf and you're playing Undead, you cannot fight me head-to-head in a battle. Roared Hippogriffs are just so much more powerful. So I entangle your DK for 7 seconds. So you have to fight me or pop an Invul Potion, but then I'll just entangle you again. So you have to fight me or let your hero die. You cannot fight me because Acid Bomb is buffed and Keeper of the Grove is buffed, and you already couldn't fight me anyway, unless you're better than me. If you're Undead and you're better than the Night Elf, yeah, you could fight and win because you know when to scroll better, you know when to Nova better and Carrion better and all that stuff. But of equal level skill, you would lose. And this just got so much worse. If a Night Elf goes Alchemist Keeper and you play Undead and they know how to micro, this is so bad for you. So, I mean, just buffs across the board for Elf. This is so big for Elf. Okay, Fire Lord. If you understand the way Incinerate works, I think I've made a thread explaining it. You would understand that this change is irrelevant. It was bad before. It will still be bad. Incinerate needs to be... So basically what it does is every hit it stacks upon the previous damage. So first hit you do 2, second hit 4. This is just bonus damage. So you do your base damage plus this bonus damage. It goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So you need to attack something 10 times in a row to get 20 bonus damage. That is terrible. That is so bad. So its intended purpose, I know what it's intended for, is to either kill a unit and get AoE damage or do good single target damage. No. Doesn't work. You can get an Orb of Venom and you'll do more damage because Orb of Venom gives you 6 damage always every hit. That's your base damage. And it gives you 9 DPS, damage per second. Remember, you attack slower than 1 second. So 9 damage per second is so much more than Incinerate will ever give you in a real fight. So Incinerate is just bad. Just the way it works now is bad. It would need to be 3, 6, 9, not 2, 3, 4. It would need to be 3, 6, 9. I'm serious. It needs to be buffed by that much. Level 1 needs to be as powerful as old level 3. Level 2 needs to be twice as powerful as old level 3. And level 3 needs to be 3 times as powerful. Then it might be pickable. Maybe pickable. Or alternatively, it needs to become a passive again and be able to affect magic immune units. One of the two. This is not enough. So what I'm confused about is increased stats. If this is what I think it is and it gives the Fire Lord +1 to all stats, then I take my opinion back. I think that's awesome. I think that'd be a good change. Hopefully that's it. I haven't had a chance to look at the PTR. I'll do that later. And same with Soulburn. Fire Lord is still second worst hero, I think, in the game. I think Crit Lord is worse. I think the Fire Lord stays second worst hero. But if you add all these up and you can get like a couple Crown of Kings worth of stats, you know, it might make a Fire Lord a little bit better. But you would never pick a Fire Lord. Dark Ranger changes. So it does 5 more DPS and the mana cost is reduced. So Rain Life, people don't really understand. It actually already did good damage, good DPS. So now it does a little bit better. I think this will have a nice impact. I think you could use Drain Life instead of Black Arrow. You can go Dark Ranger first and use Drain Life, and you could even creep with it. It's still worse. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I'd rather put an Orb of Venom or use Black Arrow than spend my time life draining. But I mean, sure, why not? It's a good change. It needs more, but it's a good change. I do think that the Dark Ranger is now a worse pick. I think you could argue using the Dark Ranger over the Alchemist before. I think the Alchemist is a better pick now. Silence is still massively overpowered. So I think against Orc, you would still rather have the Dark Ranger or the Demon Hunter. But I think against the other races, I think Alchemist is looking better. Same with the Tinker. So, alright, so if I were to go over the biggest changes, I would say Dreadlord being able to... So my 3 biggest takeaways from this are Carrion Swarm. Hits mechanical units. Great change. A stealth nerf to tanks. Second biggest change is Keeper of the Grove buff. Awesome. Really big buff for Elf. Really big buff for Elf. But hey guys, if Keeper becomes meta in solo because of these buffs, then it might get nerfed again. Because I think they'll start to realize how strong it actually is. So this might be nerfed. And last big takeaway is Tinker changes. This is huge. And I use them mostly from an Elf perspective because Elf is the one that uses all these heroes. But I think other races can try using them now. For sure. Maybe even Human can use a little bit more Alchemist. I don't know about the Tinker. Kind of Elf is using the Tinker, but I've seen Undead use it a bit, and I've seen Human use it a bit. Doesn't really synergize with anything that Orc has, not Bloodlust or Heal Wave or yeah, those 2 things. Or Heal Aura or Spirit Link. So you usually don't get the Tinker for Orc. I think you stick with the Blade Master here. But yeah. And so because of those 3 biggest changes to the Tinker, to the Keeper, and to the Dreadlord, that's a buff to Night Elf, biggest. Second biggest buff to Undead. So a silent nerf to Human and Orc. And Orc hasn't been doing so hot. And I think that's because there are lesser tier players playing Orc right now. We have no big... I don't think we really have any big names playing Orc. So people can't abuse the power of Spirit Linked, Bloodlusted Blade Master correctly. Because we don't have very many strong Orcs. But I think Orc is still fine. I think they are worse. And so if you're one of those players that I'm talking about that isn't as strong, I think your Orc just got worse. Maybe get better. Human, I think the Mountain King is now the best hero in the game. Like I said, that's huge. That AoE is huge. 175 damage, 400 range. But I mean, he was already like one of the best heroes. Now he's probably the best. I think you definitely consider going bolt clap almost every time now. And the nuke damage is increased. So yeah, you lost 25 damage in bolt, but you gained 35 damage in clap. So level 7 Mountain King, you heard it here first, I think is the new strongest hero in the game. But I don't think it makes an effect. I don't think it's going to make that big a deal. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this patch. Awesome changes. I hope for more. Let me know if you guys like this video. Maybe I can make some more stuff. I'd like to talk about them in solo. Um, I have a lot to say about that, and perhaps some more changes. I really have. I think I have some good suggestions about these heroes in solo, but let's save that for another time. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think, and yeah, talk to you later.